So you live in a desert. You wouldn't think that like condensation and moisture and humidity and water was something that you had to worry that much about. Well, you might worry about trying to find water. But anyway, listen, on today's episode of In the House, we're going to talk about condensation and where it can build up in your house that you might not even be aware of, and damage that could happen if you're not paying attention to it. Let's go. In the House is an Any Hour Services podcast geared towards helping homeowners learn more about maintaining and repairing their homes. I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and today I've got Dave Harvey with Any Hour Services. Dave's actually the owner, or one of the owners, of the Arizona Any Hour Services. He was kind enough to join us. We're actually going to be talking about Arizona homes today, ain't that right?
Yep. Thanks, Mike.
So talking about condensation, here's the thing. Arizona is known for being dry, right?
That's correct.
You wouldn't think that moisture and humidity and things like that are an issue. I mean, you were saying like we got monsoon season coming up, right?
It's right around the corner.
So, but condensation specifically, we talked about a place in the house that they might not be aware of it. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. It's not the bathroom. Like when you're running you got the condensation from the hot shower and stuff. If you don't turn the fan on, yes, that can be an issue, but we're talking about something that could cause a flood and damage the home. Dave, where's this condensation happen?
It's coming from your air conditioner, and it's a normal part of the process. It's part of conditioning air when your system will pull the moisture out of the air, and it'll collect upstairs, usually in your evaporator coil, or it'll collect on the roof in your evaporator coil, and then it just it usually flushes out and into a pipe and goes out into the ground, and we forget about it.
Right. So the way that your air conditioner works to cool your home is you're removing heat from the air, and in the summer you're also removing moisture, and so that process, you've got a coil inside the house where you've got the refrigerant lines running through it, and the way that it cools the air is that refrigerant is cold, yes, and the air coming across is warmer than the cold refrigerant, and so it cools the air.
Yep.
And in the process of doing that, that coil will sweat. That's where the evaporation will happen, right?
Yep, that's correct.
And that will run down into a pan. The people that engineered it and made it, they knew this would happen.
Yes.
Science, right?
Yep.
And so it's got a drain pan, and that stuff will drain from the house. But we were talking in earlier episodes about how that drain line can get clogged up. Like if you're not changing your filter and all of a sudden your evaporator coil's getting dirty, or just over time, if the water quality is like kind of congeals and like gets kind of gunky, right?
Yes.
And it can clog that pipe. How does someone know whether that thing is clogged or not?
Well, there's really no way for you to know unless you're you know where the condensation is supposed to come out. Uh-huh. And in most houses, it's out right outside by the condenser, the outside unit. There's two pipes coming out of the wall. One is your primary, one's your secondary. If you have a 2-story, they put that secondary condensation line up high because it's a warning for you. If you see it dripping from that higher pipe, we have a problem. That means your primary's backed up. And every year hang
on, let me stop you right there. You
Yep.
say 2 pipes coming out. Are these like small PVC pipes, or are these like plastic tubes? Like, what does this pipe look like?
They're typically 3/4 inch PVC pipes, and they're usually painted the same color as the house.
Okay, gotcha. And do they protrude from the house, or is it just a hole?
They stick out from the house, usually about 2 inches, and there's usually a 90-degree turn pointing down.
And you're saying that there's 2 of them, one is higher than the other?
That's correct.
And you should see water coming out of them, or you should not?
You should see water coming out of the lower one just about any time your air conditioner is running, because it is condensing, it's pulling moisture out of the air, and that's how the system gets rid of it. But if you see water coming out of the secondary, which is the higher one, that's an indication of a problem.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So that's something that people, if you're out in the yard, hanging out, and you notice that your air conditioner is running, the fan thing is going, that condensing unit outside, if you go and look for those pipes, if water is coming out of the lower one, you're probably okay.
You're good to go.
And then, but if water is coming out of the higher one, that's a sign that you've got a clog. And before that second one clogs, you're going to want to have the thing looked at.
Yeah, because if that second one clogs, then we got water that's going to go into the living space.
That's a good tip. I don't know if you guys know what you just got on this show. You just got a good tip.
All right.
All right. So what else? Is there something, if someone notices? Okay, so this is I grew up in the South, so I can call myself like a redneck, but like my way of like thinking like I would try and fix it myself is like, okay, if I saw water coming out of the top one, I might take like a shop vac and try and put on the bottom one and like see if I can clear that clog out.
You can, but normally what you're going to do is you're not going to clean the line. You may pull out a little bit of what's clogging it, but it's going to turn right around and probably back up again.
Gotcha.
Every season as this condensation goes through the line, it works fine, and then we stop condensing and it dries out. Now we got a little layer of crud that's stuck in that pipe. The next season comes, we get that moisture coming back in there, and now it starts turning into a slime.
Right.
And after a couple of years, it'll stop up that line. That's why we recommend having an annual flush on that system.
So when you're having the maintenance done on your air conditioner, which everyone should be having done at least once a summer, when you're having that done, what's the process that your guys do to like do they flush that out? How do they clean it?
They do. They have special tools and equipment that they'll go ahead and put some stuff in the drain pan, and it'll flush right out the system. And then
Gotcha.
They make sure that they clear that line.
Gotcha. So what kind of damage have you seen from that clogged drain line?
Well, I've seen ceilings collapsing. I've seen just total devastations of bedrooms, and you're having to get a restoration company out there to dry everything out. And if you're not at home and that happens, say you're on vacation or something, then we can get into bigger problems because now that water's been sitting in there for a while.
Right. So in Arizona, are most of the furnaces in the attics or on the roofs?
In Arizona, most of your air handlers and your furnaces are in the
Sorry, did I say air conditioner?
Yep.
I meant like the coil, like because the coils are attached with the furnace, but sorry.
Yep. Your air handlers and your furnaces are usually up in the attic, or they go into a closet, you see the units they put on the roof. Right.
So it's going to be somewhere that if the water is flooding out of that drain pan, not only is it going to drip down onto the components of the furnace and stuff, but then it's gonna leak into the house and some living space there. Well, that's no fun. So all right. So annually, you say the solution is just make sure as part of the annual maintenance, whoever's coming out and doing that maintenance, that's something that they're checking.
Yeah, and that's something that we check every year when we go out and do our annual inspections for our startups for our air conditioners. And we're actually running a special right now where anybody that refers to this podcast, that we'll come out for $29 and we'll get that taken care of them.
Now, normally you charge $99 to come out and do that service, right?
Yes.
So you're saying that anyone that is listening to this podcast, they live in that Arizona market, they call you up and say, hey, I was listening to Dave on In the House. He said he'd save me $70 and come out and tune up my air conditioner.
We'll come out and take care of you.
$29. Well, there you go. Not only did you learn that you should be looking at those pipes coming out the wall, but here's $70 saved right there just for listening to the show. So anyway, if you haven't had your air conditioner serviced yet, give Dave and his team over at Any Hour Services a call. They'll come over and they'll get your air conditioner checked out, inspected, make sure you don't have that leak. Now, you were actually saying that during the monsoon season that it's worse. Why is that?
It's worse because there's more moisture in the air, so the air conditioners are working a little bit harder.
Right, because that's one of my favorite parts of monsoon season is that rain that comes, but that rain adds a lot of moisture.
Mine too.
Anyway, anything else that you feel like people should know about as far as like what they need to watch for with that condensation?
I don't. I think we covered it all.
Awesome. Well, Dave, thanks again. It's been great, learning more and more about taking care of our homes in Arizona. Really appreciate you being here. For those that are listening, for those that are watching, thanks so much. I hope this was helpful. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whatever you need to do to make sure you get notified next time we release a new episode of In the House. If you'd like to know more about Any Hour Services, visit anyhourservices.com. I've been your host, Mike Wilson, and you've been listening to In the House. See ya.